Well, good morning, West Ham fans. Could be a case that West Ham can spend, and the likes of Man City have to hold it back a little bit. Yes, everybody, Russ on the West Ham Network. Hope you're safe. Well, happy Thursday. It's Thursday. This week is going very, very, very quickly. And obviously, for those of us in the UK, long weekend, short week next week, bank holiday Monday. And it's a day closer to me holidays, so I can't wait. But I tell you who can't wait, the Premier League clubs, in terms of how much money they can spend. They had a 2-hour shareholder meeting earlier this week to discuss for the first time a spending cap to be imposed by all the clubs. As I said, it was the first time they've had a proper discussion about this, and it was an agreement, so to speak, ended with the new regulations, which would, in essence, anchor the spending and related down to the lowest earning Premier League side. And these were going to be drafted a bit more fully ahead of the summer AGM meeting between all the 20 clubs. In essence, it's the price cap would see clubs spend potentially 5 times the amount of revenue generated by the bottom club. So we can talk about it in a bit more detail. By all accounts, out of the 20 clubs, Man City, Man United, and Aston Villa opposed the move, which was quite surprising because Aston Villa, I think, would have probably benefited from this price cap. And Chelsea abstained. And there's a reason why Chelsea abstained, because they've spent a lot more than they should have done under this. But 16 clubs, including the Mighty Hammers, voted for the proposal, which only did need 14 to pass. So, in essence, the current profit and sustainability rules would be replaced by a squad control cost. So it would ban clubs from spending more than 85% of their total revenue on wages, transfer, and agents' fees. And the spending cap would fix a ceiling on that spending. So in essence, it's sort of two-pronged attack. So you can't spend more than 85% of your total revenue on wages, transfer payments, agents' fees, but there's a cap on that. So for someone like Man United, it would make sense for them to oppose it because they are one of the most, they're a money machine, aren't they, in terms of Man United? So in terms of their revenue, it would be vast compared to West Ham, but still be restricted to only, say, £500 million, but they could potentially spend a lot more. Same as Man City, really, and Chelsea, just because they spent a lot of money. Last year's, looking at, for example, how much we could spend or how much clubs could spend, we looked at last year's figures. This was from courtesy on The Athletic and Sean on X. Last year's figures show that Southampton were bottom of the league. And they received £104 million in TV money. So, say 5 times, which I think roughly what people are looking at, would mean 520 million would be the price cap, so to speak. But obviously, finer details need to be seen before the proposed introduction. It may be unclear whether it means it's against total TV income, or the amount the bottom club receives from domestic deals only. So obviously there's deals inside in terms of domestic TV deals, the likes of Sky, TNT, Amazon, but also there's the wider ones in terms of things like NBC and places like that. And whether it should only be tied to wages. Maybe clubs could potentially try and bypass the cap by offshore payments in instance. But as you can see, the only team in trouble in that respect would have been Chelsea. Similarly, this year, they would, as you said, under the current last year's money, it would mean that the spending cap would have been £518 million, where West Ham's played £176 million. Similarly, there is, if he's looking at, say, this year's figures, for example, Chelsea, obviously, they spent over £1 billion, so they would have fouled them again probably this year as well. So it's not surprising that they abstained the votes. But it looks like it's going to come into effect. It would allow the likes of West Ham, for example, it would give them a potential boost, and also open up the likes of Aston Villa and Newcastle as well to spend more than they currently have under the current regulations. Obviously, I mean, someone like, one of the ones who have been sort of dug out is Forest, for example. It means under a new regulation, a team like Forest could spend what they want to spend, or claim they need to spend to stay competitive. At the moment they didn't have. That's why they got the points deduction, because they were, in terms of above what they could actually spend under the current regulations. This opens it up. It allows people also to have a bit of a go as well. So if you can spend 85%, you can spend up to 85%, and it is within £500 million. Off you go. Fill your boots, son. Fill your boots. It would make it. I could see how it could make it more competitive. It potentially make it. It could push more and more clubs to breaking point, because they could feel like they could have a go, and actually it might not work out for them. But it does open up the possibilities of, in terms of investment, external investment, investment from, new buyers and stuff like that. In fact, that they could spend a bit more than they currently have. They're a bit hamstrung, I think, now in terms of what they can spend with the current PSR rules in place. But with the spending cap on place, means the likes of the big juggernauts, they will have to be a little bit, a bit careful in terms of how they spend their money. As you said, looking at that chart, Man United were quite close to it. They're about quite close, 17 million quid. But in footballing terms, that's quite close, particularly for them. Chelsea were well above. Actually, it was Man City. Sorry, Man City 501. Man United 453 million. So they're about 60 million within budget. But all it takes is one extra big name player, isn't it? And they're up to, they'd have to, they couldn't buy a player for, if they'd already spent £453 million, they couldn't buy a player for a player package of more than 60 million. Otherwise, they'll be, they'd fit their price cap. So they'll have to go in at 50 million. And so there's a negotiation for that, maybe one big star they need. I don't know. But let me know what you think. I know there needs to be something in place. There needs to be something in place which works, because, I mean, the case in point, look at someone like Newcastle. Newcastle are on paper the richest club in the world based on their owners, but they can't. They can't spend it. They have to maybe sell someone like Isaac or Giremes to then give them enough leeway to go out and buy it and spend the money they've got. It also opens, something like this opens up the possibility of, when it comes to West Ham, someone taking over, a full takeover of the club, in that, the new owner coming in would have enough headroom to spend. I mean, looking at that, £176 million we spent in 22-23, which is more than mid-table, well, below mid-table, I'd say. And yet we would have more headroom to go out and spend without being hamstrung with potential PSR sanctions. Don't know. Just thought it's something a bit different. Obviously, it won't be implemented until the year after next, the 25-26 window, season. But yeah, obviously we've got this one to get out of the way with. But what will be interesting to say is, maybe we don't get European football this year, or for next season, and we can concentrate on investment in the squad for that sort of core squad for the Premier League and domestic cups. And then the following year, hopefully, if we have a decent cup run, or maybe a decent league run, which we hope we would, because we'd have less games to play, the players would be fresher and stuff, and qualify for Europe that way. Then in the 25, then that sort of summer, when potentially these rules come into place, we don't have to do such a big rebuild job, but we'd have enough headroom to bring in some quality to add to the core squad for our European campaign. King of wishful thinking? Quite possibly. Take care, stay safe, stay warm, stay humble. Keep the faith. Irons!